Hello everyone, this is Dr. Pooja Sharma, Assistant Professor, Department of Management at the Bhopal School of Social Sciences. Today we'll continue with the very important topic motivation of the Unit 4 of the subject Principles of Management. This is a very essential subject in the curriculum of BBA, BCom, MBA and even BTech programs. Let us take a quick look at the learning objectives of this module. Today, we will be covering two very important motivational theories, Herzberg's two-factor theory of motivation and Adams' equity theory. Herzberg's two-factor theory. It is a need or content theory. Herzberg conducted interview on 200 engineers and accountants working in 11 different firms in the US. The findings of the study are there are two sets of factors which affect the satisfaction and dissatisfaction of the workers. Number one, dissatisfiers. When these factors are not present, dissatisfaction arises. These are also called as hygiene factors, as they support the mental health of the employees. These are also called maintenance factors, as they are necessary to maintain a reasonable level of satisfaction among the employees. Second type is the satisfiers or the motivational factors. The presence of these factors motivates the employees, but their absence does not create dissatisfaction among the employees. Now looking at the hygiene factors first, company policy and administration, technical supervision, interpersonal relations with the superiors, subordinates and the peers, salary, job security, personal life, working conditions, status. Understanding one by one. Pay. The pay or salary structure should be appropriate and reasonable. It must be equal and competitive to those in the same industry and the same domain. Company policies and administrative policies. The company policies should not be rigid. They should be fair and clear. It should include flexible working hours, dress code, breaks, vacation, etc. Number 3, fringe benefits. The employees should be offered health care plans, Mediclaim, benefits for the family members, employee help programs, etc. Number 4, physical working conditions. The working conditions should be safe, clean and hygienic. The work equipments should be updated and well maintained. Number 5, status. The employee's status within the organization should be familiar and retained. Next, interpersonal relations. The relationship of the employees with their peers, superiors, subordinates should be appropriate and acceptable. There should be no conflict or humiliation element present. Job security. The organization must provide job security to the employees. Let me share a very interesting anecdote to explain you how working conditions play a motivational role. Rishi Modi, chairman of Tata Steel from 1984 to 1993, was once holding a weekly meeting with Tata Steel staff at a football ground in Jamshedpur. A worker took up a niggling issue. He said the quality and hygiene of toilets for workers was very bad, whereas he pointed out that the cleanliness and hygiene of executive toilets was always very good. Mr. Modi asked his top executive how much time he needs to set it right. The executive asked for a month to set it right. Mr. Modi said, "I would rather do it in a day. Send me a carpenter." Next day, when the carpenter came, he ordered the signboards to be swapped. The signboard on the workers' toilet was changed to executives and on the executive toilet was changed to workers. The Tata chairman then gave instructions to interchange it every fortnight. The quality of both the toilets became on par in 3 days. A solution that was immediate and lasting for both. Hence, we see that cleanliness in the workplace, which affects work environment, is noticed so immaculately by the top management of big brands. Looking at more examples to understand hygienic factors of job security. Pandemic has impacted the jobs of hundreds of thousands of employees across the globe. Several tech startups sack employees due to COVID-19 lockdown crisis. Oyo has reportedly furloughed thousands of its staff to mitigate pandemic woes. Fairportal sacks 500. Emirates, the most renowned airlines, Cummins, the list is endless. Another example is of Himanshu Geet, CEO and co-founder at Big Jobs. He told Gadgets 360, while layoffs will reduce immediate costs, it could harm a company's interests in the longer term. He advised companies to consider various scenarios around how long this crisis would last for the businesses and how cash flows are likely to get affected before resorting to layoffs and salary cuts. He suggested other alternatives like reducing the cash component of the salary, compensating it with stock options, offering employees a share in the revenues or profit, reducing the number of hours, or temporarily sending employees to long sabbaticals or leave without pay. Another way to keep employees motivated was through non-monetary benefits such as promotions, bigger titles, better flexibility. Thus, through these examples, it is evident that job security creates job satisfaction, which finally motivates the employees in an organization. Let us look at the second type of factors, motivational factors. Achievement, recognition, advancement, work itself, possibilities of growth, responsibility. The motivators symbolize the psychological needs that were perceived as an additional benefit. Motivational factors include, number 1, recognition. The employees should be praised and recognized for their accomplishments by the managers. Number 2, sense of achievement. The employees must have a sense of achievement. This depends on the job. There must be a fruit of some sort in the job. Number 3, growth and promotional opportunities. There must be growth and advancement opportunities in an organization to motivate the employees to perform better. Responsibility. The employees must hold themselves responsible for the work. The managers should give them ownership of the work. They should minimize control but retain accountability. Meaningfulness of the work. The work itself should be meaningful, interesting, and challenging for the employee to perform and to get motivated. Implications of the two-factor theory. The two-factor theory implies that the managers must stress upon guaranteeing the adequacy of the hygiene factors to avoid employee dissatisfaction. Also, the managers must make sure that the work is stimulating and rewarding so that the employees are motivated to work and perform harder and better. This theory emphasizes upon job enrichment so as to motivate the employees. The job must utilize the employees' skills and competencies to the maximum. Focusing on the motivational factors, organizations can improve work quality. What are the limitations of two-factor theory? The two-factor theory is not free from limitations. it overlooks situational variables. Herzberg assumed a correlation between satisfaction and productivity. But the research conducted by Herzberg stressed upon satisfaction and ignored productivity. The theory's reliability is uncertain. Analysis has to be made by the raters. The raters may spoil the findings by analyzing same response in different manner. No comprehensive measure of satisfaction was used. An employee may find his job acceptable despite the fact that he might hate that particular part of his job. The theory ignores blue-collar workers. Despite these limitations, Herzberg's two-factor theory is acceptable broadly. Now, we will understand the equity theory. It is a cognitive theory propounded by J. Stacy Adams. According to this theory, people compare the rewards of their performance with the performance of their fellow workers. Rewards are the outcomes of a person's performance. Performance is the input of a person by virtue of his skills, knowledge, ability, education, and competence. After comparison, the employees judge the fairness of rewards received. The relationship between inputs and outcomes of one person, equity, is equal to person's outcomes divided by person's outputs, equal to others' outcomes divided by others' inputs. Impact of inequity on the person. Perceived inequity by the employees creates tension in the person. Amount of tension is proportional to the magnitude of inequity. The tension created motivates the person. Looking at examples of equity theory at work. In practice, this helps to explain why people are so strongly affected by the situations of colleagues, friends, partners, etc. in establishing their own personal sense of fairness or equity in their work situations. Equity theory explains why people can be happy and motivated by the situation one day, and yet with no change in the terms and working conditions can be made very unhappy and demotivated if they learn, for example, that a colleague is enjoying a better reward to effort ratio. This also explains why and how full-time employees will compare their situations and input to output ratios with part-time colleagues, who very probably earn less. However, it is the ratio of input to output, reward to effort which counts. And if the part-timer is perceived to enjoy a more advantageous ratio, then this will have a negative effect on the full-timer's sense of equity and with it their personal motivation. Implications of equity theory for managers. Understanding equity theory and especially its pivotal comparative aspect helps managers and policy makers to appreciate that while improving one person's terms and conditions can resolve that individual's demands for a while, if the change is perceived by other people to upset the equity of their own situations, then the solution can easily generate far more problems than it attempted to fix. Equity theory reminds us that people see themselves and crucially the way they are treated in terms of their surrounding environment, team, system, etc., not in isolation, and so they must be managed and treated accordingly. Equity theory has several implications for business managers. People measure the total of their inputs and outcomes. This means a working mother may accept lower monetary compensation in return for more flexible working hours. Different employees ascribe personal values to inputs and outcome. Thus, two employees of equal experience and qualification performing same work for the same pay may have quite different perceptions of the fairness of the deal. Employees are able to adjust for purchasing power and local market conditions. Thus, a teacher from a semi-urban area may accept lower compensation than his colleague in an urban area if his cost of living is different, while a teacher in a remote village may accept a totally different pay structure. Although it may be acceptable for more senior staff to receive higher compensation, there are limits to the balance of the scales of equity, and employees can find excessive executive pay demotivating. Looking at the limitations of this theory, the theory is narrow in its emphasis on visible rewards. The application of this theory is practically difficult. Thus, despite the limitations, the theory has wide-reaching implication for employee morale, efficiency, productivity, and turnover. So we take a quick recap. We have understood in detail the Herzberg's two-factor theory, its implications to the managers. Secondly, we understood the equity theory of motivation and its applicability in business organizations. Students, any topic we study or it is in our curriculum, we must ponder and go deep to understand its application in the corporate world. We need to be curious about why are we supposed to be studying this topic. So once you get recruited in various organizations, we can connect all these concepts in our day-to-day working. I've given you certain suggested readings. You can take these books from the net and give a nice reading. Thank you, and wish to bring you even more engrossing topics in my next module. Till then, read and read more. Goodbye.